Did you know that emotionally unhealthy men have destructive behaviors? Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and I've worked with men over many years now, both in and out of the correctional system. And I want to take some time to talk about some of the unhealthy behaviors that I've seen in men over the years, some which may be more well known than others. So, one form of self-destructive behavior that I've seen in men that struggle with narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial, or even borderline personality disorder, or can have co-occurring personality and mood disorders is self-harm. Self-harm can come across through many ways, such as cutting themselves. So, it's not uncommon to see men with cuts on their arms or on their legs. Also burning themselves or, physically hitting themselves over and over and over and over again. In another form of self-harm, which may be controversial on this post, but I've explored it with a lot of the men that I've worked with, is tattooing. And this is very common in the prison system, where men just kind of almost like binge on tattoos, and they start getting it all over their face and in these extremely painful places. And we talked about how that's a form of self-harm and how they like feeling pain because it's their way of dealing with their emotions for a lot of them, as opposed to emotionally expressing or outwardly expressing their emotions, I should say. It's better to manifest pain in a physical form, if that makes sense. So tattooing is also very common. And another way that men like to self-harm, and again, this is not one that I've seen talked about a lot, but there could be, is eating disordered behavior. A lot of what I've seen is bulimia typically, or binge eating behaviors, and that could also include body dysmorphia and orthorexia. Orthorexia is where people are hyper focused on healthy lifestyle and healthy eating habits to an extreme form. But a lot of times I see men with bulimia, and I've seen men also too with anorexia, which is less common, but certainly binge eating is a form of self-destructive behavior, or a form of trying to cope with emotionally unhealthy emotional feelings, I should say. Sex addiction, and sex addiction comes in many forms. And so I'll talk about, a little bit about what I can here. So that could be porn addiction. It could be engaging in what I call high risk behaviors, in sex, such as hiring sex workers and things like that, or leading alternative lifestyles, which leads to a lot of casual encounters and things like that, where they may not use protection. Substance abuse could be another form of self-harm, and oftentimes is, especially in the prison system. And I'm not talking, of course, there's, regular, what I call mainstream substances that people use, but extremely lethal drugs with a high mortality rate. So if a drug is more likely to cause death, then it suddenly becomes much more attractive. So that's why in the correctional system, or in the prison system, at one point in time, fentanyl became very highly sought after, because a lot of people saw that you could literally, pass away and overdose from the first use, so it suddenly became much more attractive. And people felt like, the men in the correctional system felt like they had to get their hands on it, because, they're struggling with mood disorders or emotional pain and things like that, that they want to self-destruct in that way. Self-sabotage is another one, and also it can look a little different and can oftentimes go unnoticed. So men can self-sabotage themselves in their work careers, in their romantic relationships. They could not be as goal oriented or ambitious for fear of failing. So the thought process behind this is, if I don't have high achieving goals, then I can't really fail, and therefore I can't really disappoint myself. This can also show up in romantic partnerships by, um, you know, not wanting a partner that's ambitious, or not putting effort into the relationship. So just those are just some of the behaviors that I kind of wanted to talk about today. Let me know if you guys want to hear more about way that self-destructiveness, self-harm shows up in men. Thanks.